Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Authors on Mission podcast. Today, just picture this. You're sitting in a church, surrounded by familiar faces, singing songs you've known by heart since childhood, nodding at this as the sermon points you've heard a dozen times before, but inside there's an ache, a hollow feeling that maybe you're missing something profound. Maybe you're performing Christianity instead of living it. Our guest today knows this journey intimately. Desiree Taylor, author, advocate, and fearless truth teller, has written a book that's shaking up how we think about church, faith, and relationship with the divine. In Created to Relate, Living Beyond Religion, she doesn't just tell us about her journey from religions to spiritual freedom. She invites us to examine our own backpacks full of spiritual burdens we've been carrying for far too long. So, on today's episode, we're going to dive in without the book, learn a little more about Desiree Taylor, and of course, talk about some wonderful writing tips. So settle in as we explore what happens when someone dares to ask, what if everything I thought I knew was just the beginning? Desiree Taylor, welcome to the Authors on Mission podcast.
Hi, Danielle. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. I'm really looking forward to diving in and chatting more about this too. I'm glad we can connect, and I'm looking forward to the show too. So I think it's important that we always begin with getting to know you a little bit more so that our audience understands where the book comes from and, of course, the tips later on to come. So you did experience some hearing loss from a young age, I understand. That must have been a big physical challenge to shape your spiritual journey.
Yes, it did. And actually, the only reason why I can do this with you today is because I did get the cochlear implants because from the age of 9, I started with a hearing aid and my loss was progressive, but I have complete deafness. So when they are off, I don't hear anything at all. Wow. So it has affected all.
It is amazing. Amazing how technology has become that way, and very fortunate too, of course.
Yes, I'm very blessed. And it's not the decision that everyone makes, but it's been one of the best ones for me.
Well, that's wonderful. But growing up like that, it must have been quite a challenge. Did it in any way shape your understanding of your spiritual journey as you went along this path that the book's all about?
Yeah, and it's actually been kind of a profound piece for me because I always thought that my hearing loss would keep me from so many things, like it feels like it does. But one of my moments that I did write about in the book was when my cochlear implants were off and I could hear the Lord more, and experience him on a deeper level when they were off than even when they were on. And it was just a happy moment for me to realize that my hearing loss and my deafness doesn't keep me from those important things.
I like that. Yeah, you can't just let one setback hold you back, right? You have to learn from it, grow from it, and experience what you're still able to regardless of it. So that's wonderful. But you also did, as you went through your experiences, you did mention that as you went to church, you witnessed something that's a little bit traumatic. You mentioned seeing people going through situations through an adult lens instead of a child's. So I'm wondering, what was the most shocking revelation about the people that you thought you knew as you began seeing this? I believe this was when the church split, actually, to be more specific.
Yes. Well, I think as a child, we kind of see things through rose-colored glasses, but also adults don't always show the things in front of children that they do in front of adults. And It was interesting watching people, the way they treated other people, just the divisive words, the divisive actions, the backstabbing, all those kind of things. As a child, you don't see that. You see this person who's just smiling and friendly to you and all nice, and you just don't see those things in the background. And that was really eye-opening to me. I wouldn't have expected it from certain ones. And it was really disappointing and devastating and painful for me because when you realize that someone's not who you thought they were, it can kind of break your heart a little bit.
Right, right. And I'm sure that kind of led to more of the struggles that you describe later on. The book specifically, you described feeling like you were going through the motions despite being active in the church. You felt a hole in your heart that nothing could fit. So I'm wondering if you can, shine a little bit light on that. Was that a direct consequence of what you were just talking about, or perhaps a little bit different?
Yeah, I think that, because when you grow up in the church, in religion and stuff, there's these checklists, like you need to do this, you need to go to church, you need to do all these things. And you can, what I realized is those were the things I was trying to do, all these things that I was taught. But even as I checked the list, I still felt empty, you know, um, and then you go to different things. It could, whether it's the shopping, whether it's the drinking, whether it's the drugs, whether it's whatever it is, whether it's the sex or whatever, and to come out the same way, there's an emptiness because what I've realized is it doesn't matter if you do everything right. You're still left empty, very lonely. And that's where I was. I'm like, I don't understand why I'm doing all these things I'm supposed to do, and even doing the things I'm not supposed to do. Neither one of them filled anything. And it wasn't until I really understood that relationship with Jesus was when that hole began to be filled. He helped heal those things that were those wounds that I had within me, and I had a peace that I could never have in doing any of those things on either side of it.
Right. So then was it when you were able to find that piece, you decided to create the book itself, created to relate, or was there another catalyst that drove you to, what, I have to put this down on paper?
Yeah, well, no, it was kind of interesting how this all kind of played out because really my oldest son was just getting old enough to start graduating and doing those things. So I was mainly a stay-at-home mom. I did work at the school with special needs, but my main job was with the kids. So you start realizing, wow, what's for later? And writing has always been, it's another place where my hearing loss hasn't been an issue for me. Like I can write whether I have a good year day or whether I have a bad one. And writing's always been therapy for me too. So I just started blogging, and then I started thinking about, could I really write a book? And what I started out thinking the book was going to be was not what it turned out to be. I thought it was going to be more about other people's stories and more of that kind of thing. But as I started writing it, it's almost as though God just created it to be something different. But it was a very healing thing for me too. It was very painful, but it was very healing to write out these things. And it was just kind of in the process of doing the book that it became what it was. I didn't even have that picture of it being what it became.
Right. Well, that's really how a lot of books do come into being, right? We start to write, our inspiration shifts from here to there. You realize, okay, maybe the main point of my book is A instead of B, right? And so that's great that you we were kind of guided by that spirituality as you went along. That's probably some of the way the most great books are written, I would say, is when you're not following a set structure.
Yeah, it was a really powerful process for me, and I'll take that into the next book too.
Oh,
I'm looking forward to see what comes next, and just not going in with a specific picture and just kind of going with that flow and letting it become what it was. That was such a beautiful process for me.
right. And you did just mention a second book then. Is that something that's in the works right now?
I am starting to work on it a little bit. Yeah, seeing where it goes. And I also have some devotional books that I'm working on as well. So we'll see what pops out first. But I really would like to get the second book. It's going to be kind of a sequel to this one because we are created for a relationship with the Lord, but also with one another. So that's where I'm going to go this time.
Wow. Okay, great. Well, it's great to know that you always have something in the works. I always like to hear authors who they have a book out, it's been successful, but they're not stopping. They're still inspired. We're still writing. So real quick though, if people do want to get in touch and know when that book's going to be out and connect with you, just since we're on the topic of it, what is a great way for them to reach out and make those connections? Do you have a certain website that they can be guided to?
Yes, my website's really where I send everybody, which is www.arenewedcreation.com. That's where
Perfect.
There is a button to buy the book, but you can buy it at Amazon and anywhere else. But it's where I do all my blogging and all of that as well.
Understood. Got it. So we're going to put the links to that in the description box of this podcast today. So when we're all wrapped later on, we can go ahead and click on over and you can learn a little bit more, everybody. But before we do, we have a ton more to unpack here in today's episode. I was curious to know a little bit about your writing process itself. I mean, writing about personal struggles, especially spiritual ones, it does include a lot of vulnerability and strength to do so. So were there moments when you decided, I'm sure there was some struggles. Did you have to delete some sections because they were too raw? How did you select which stories to tell? I'm wondering what that process was like for you.
Well, I do think that even though I didn't fully know the way the book was going to go, I'm very intentional about being vulnerable and transparent. So I don't think I ever really thought to delete things, but it took a lot some days to not give up on the whole book process itself, because it felt very hard and it was very painful. And there were certain spots where, as I was writing out these raw and vulnerable places, that there were just some days that I just sat and cried. I couldn't even write anymore that day. So I had pauses, and it took me a while to write the book, but I never thought to delete, because I think it's very important to be vulnerable and transparent. And I think that's one of the areas that I needed some freedom from, because growing up, whether it was at home, at church, everyone, no one was really vulnerable. No one shared their personal things. And it was the opposite. They kind of encourage you to stuff your feelings. And that has been the most horrible thing for me. That's where some of my depression struggles have come from and everything else. I want to be a person who helps people feel free to be vulnerable and, in the right places, and to share those things that they've kept in too long so that they can be free too. So that's always been very important to me. Now, after the book came out, I had a moment where I'm like, oh my word, this is now out where all these people can read it, or they can see, and now people know these things. But outside of that, I think it makes me more excited, because I know that in my face-to-face ministries and different things that I do a lot of mentoring with younger girls. So I just see what comes from that. People want that vulnerability. I think that it makes people want to get to know you more. So I'm excited about that, because it really does bring some connections for me with people I might not have had if I didn't share those things in the book, I think.
Understood. Right. Well, it's amazing that you were able to, make these connections, essentially the mentoring. It's always great to give back and share wisdom with others when you're able to, and so on and so forth, because you've learned so much from your experiences that it's only, the right thing to do something like that. I'm sure that's very rewarding also.
Yes, it is. Very much.
Well, moving ahead to some other topics about this book here, I am curious, do you happen to have a copy of it with you today?
Oh, I do. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, there it is. Perfect. I'm glad. Well, it's a beautiful cover. Did you have a part to play in creating it?
With the cover, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I got to pick it. Yeah. I went through the pictures and picked it out that way. I'm not creative necessarily in that sense. I know what I want to see and what I want it to look like, but no, I had help with that.
Right. Well, I always like to ask, because sometimes the publishers create it, sometimes the author creates it, so it's always great. But either way, it did come out beautiful. I love it. It's very inspirational, just looking off into the distance, kind of as if you're seeking your purpose, just like the purpose of the book itself. So beautiful. And now we all know where to find it. It looks, we look for that cover, and that's the one.
Yeah, I love that, because as a deaf person too, like, sign language it creates a picture for the deaf person. So I wanted to create the picture of what they were going to be reading about. So I was really excited that it really did that, painted that picture for the audience to know what kind of a journey they were going to be on reading the book.
Right, definitely. And that kind of gives them a nice sneak peek, as you just said, too, which is wonderful. It's what you'd like. I mean, a lot of people don't like to judge a book by its cover necessarily, but, it's at the end of the day, it's what we do. We look at the cover, and it's what makes us want to either dive in or move to the next, or it has to be one that's compelling, just like yours is. So that's wonderful. So moving ahead to some other questions about the book, I'm wondering if writing the book itself, the process of doing so, did it change your own understanding of your experiences? Or is it more of a documentation of insights you've already gained?
Well, it was a little of both, I think. I think it helped me process my experiences a little deeper than I had, and I think it helped show some of the things in my heart that I needed to deal with, like unforgiveness and different things with different people. And I feel like I walked out of writing this book in a better place because I had gone through the process of writing out those experiences.
Understood, right. A lot of authors do adapt their thinking and their mindsets as they're going about the process. So it's good to know that it seems to be a little bit of both for you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right, right, yeah. It's a journey when you're writing. You never know where it's going to take you, and that's exactly what you described earlier, is that you didn't know which direction the writing was going to take, and that eventually moved ahead. So that's great. That's great. So I'm wondering now, we talked a little bit about the writing process. I'm wondering if you'd like to share a little bit about the titling of your book. I mean, Created to Relate, it suggests relationship over religion. The subtitle, Living Beyond Religion, it seems to also be going beyond what spirituality looks like today to day. So, would you like to talk us through the creation process of that? I'm sure a lot of authors could benefit from learning what it's like to decide on such a profound title.
Yeah, I was, I just started off by thinking about what I wanted to communicate to the people who are going to read the book. And the thing is that God has created us to relate to Him, to other people. We were created for relationship. And religion doesn't always, what I find is religion really doesn't teach you that. And I know that there's a lot of people who grew up in the same kind of places that I did, who have given up on Jesus because of who people were and what they were shown. I didn't even hear people talk about their relationship with the Lord or any kind of experiences, or even in their relationships with one another. People were very like closed off in the sense of, you go to church on this day, but then you don't see a lot of things going on, living life together, I think. And that's really what it's all about, with God and with other people. And that's why I wanted the living beyond religion was really important to me, because that's what I wanted people to take away, that we are created for a relationship and a life that goes beyond what religion shows us sometimes, or the legalism and all of
Right,
that.
exactly. And it goes beyond what religion shows us, exactly. And it's great to know that even though it was a little bit of a challenge to experiences and to live through them, but now that you've come to terms with it, you put it into the book so that others can learn from it too.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you've had any sort of feedback from the audiences, anybody who, maybe particularly related to what you have to say or change their own perspective based on the writing.
Yeah, actually, I've had some different feedback. I've had a person go into it not thinking that they were going to take anything away from it, because they go to church, they have a relationship with the Lord, but there were so many things that they saw that they realized that they had been stuck into along the way. Then I've had other people who we just relate on the same experiences, and then other people that I've given them a picture of another side of what they've experienced. And I think it gives them a little hope too. I've had some really great conversations, and I just did a small group at my church with the book. So it was really awesome to be able to talk to people we just went through each chapter, used some of the questions in there, so people can do that too. It's pretty easy, even without like a study guide to it. You can just go through each chapter and talk about it and have a small group together at a church. So, or wherever in your home. So that was really exciting to have the different kind of conversations about where people related, and really got some feedback on each one of the chapters, which was exciting.
Right, right. Well, that's great. And it's good that you're able to get that sort of feedback. That's a great process that I think a lot of authors could learn from. Was there any other type of feedback process that you went through, perhaps with editors or beta readers?
Not too much. I found that the professional editors, I did have one that was a friend that gave me a little more personal feedback. But the professional ones, they just kind of read it, they do the changes, and they move on. I didn't get a lot of like feedback with content that way. But so not really overall. I mean, I've got the reviews. You see feedback in the reviews that people leave, and that's so important. I'm trying to encourage people to leave more reviews for the authors and stuff, because you can get a picture of what people are taking from the book. that way.
Right, exactly. And that's the kind of thing you're hoping for, right? To figure out what they're taking from the book and what the meaning behind it is. It's at the end of the day, it's about their interpretation of the writing and what they're able to tell from it. So that's incredible stuff too. So I'm wondering, as we begin to wrap up tonight, what sort of insights would you hope for our audience to take home with them today? For listeners who recognize themselves in your story, who feel that ache you're describing, what would you say is the first step they should take?
Well, I always think it's good to just kind of sit and be still for a minute and really think about like the things that you've been taught, the things that you've grown up with, the things that we believe. Because when I was going through the book, you realize kind of the lies that you believed along the way, whether it's about yourself, about God, about other people. And sometimes just taking time to just really sit through those things, to journal, I think that's really the place to start. Because anything, whether it's with something like this, or it's a relationship, or it's an addiction, or whatever, the first step is always to acknowledge where we are. And I think that's really the first step, is to acknowledge where we are, what we believe, what are the things that have hurt us, and to really feel that ache. What is it that I feel like I'm missing here? And just to be able to acknowledge that, I think that's always the first step.
Right, definitely. And to acknowledge that, I think that's important. And like the idea of sitting quiet too, like you said in the beginning, it's important that we listen to our inner voice and ground ourselves in the present moment rather than moving around and trying to do things. That takes a lot. Even for writers, I think that's an important one. If you're trying to write a book, sometimes you just need to be still and see what's coming to you. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree. Yeah, those were the best moments for me, just to kind of sit and shut off for a minute and really think about what I was writing about. And they were some of the best moments I had in my writing process.
Yeah, I'm really glad. And that's a beautiful tip for everyone to hold on to and for us to leave them with today, because, even after this podcast ends, after they click on over to your links, which are in the description box of the podcast today, they can also go ahead and start writing their own books. And remember to keep that stillness and quietness and think about what the message of your book really is. Let it come to you, just like Desiree did, right? You never know the shape of your book until you just dive right into it. So this is awesome, beautiful, beautiful stuff, Desiree. I really appreciate you sharing it with us today.
Yeah, thank you. And, I want to leave them too with just that their story is important. Like, I think each one of our stories is unique, and it's really important for people to hear. So if they do feel like they're wanting to do that, not to let anyone talk them out of it, but I just encourage them to keep moving forward and doing it, because even if it's just one person, and I had to come to that conclusion, like even with all the years of writing and all of that even if one person was helped by it, it was worth it.
I like that. That's a beautiful note to leave them with today too. Thank you so much. So yeah, Desiree, it's been a pleasure to chat with you. Your story does remind us that sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to question what we've always accepted as truth. So truly, your journey has shown us that for anyone who's ever felt like they're going through the motions of faith or feeling spiritually empty inside, there's hope, right? There's methods to turn to. It's perfect stuff. And yeah, if you're listening today, again, Created to Relate, Living Beyond Religion is available wherever books are sold. You'll find the links in the description box of this podcast today, and you can connect with Desiree at the links provided too. So in our Authors on Mission community, remember that your story, even the messy, complicated, question-filled parts, has the power to light the way for someone else stumbling in the dark. Sometimes the most profound mission we can undertake is simply being brave enough to be real. So this has been Authors on Mission podcast. We've been talking with Desiree Taylor, and until next time, keep writing your story with intention, courage, and authenticity. We'll see you next time on the Authors on Mission podcast.
This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.